Good afternoon, my wonderful Israel Briefers communities from all around the world, from Trinidad and Tobago to South Africa to Zimbabwe to Scotland in the Highlands and everywhere in between. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief brought to you by Lay of the Land, where we take a look at those top stories every Monday to Thursday. Now, you can no doubt tell by my voice that the dreaded winter lurgy has caught me. Yes, I have the flu, but a commitment to you is a commitment I intend to make. So let's get on with the Israel Brief. Just a reminder of that viewer's question coming up a little later in the show. And also, please send me your mentions and your morons of the week. I have some fascinating nominations coming in this week. So get those sent in either via our Facebook page or in the comment section below or via our website, and I will announce them tomorrow. So without further ado, let's take a look at those headlines. It is day 432. 432 days, 100 hostages remain held captive by Hamas. So let's start with the top story that we've been focusing on all week, and that is the situation in Syria. Now, last night, the IDF announced that they had taken out targets, about 80% of the Assad Syrian army. Israel striking at least 80% of the targets, including naval targets. So here is a laundry list of what the IDF have said they struck. They struck 2 naval facilities. It would include all the vessels, and also includes dozens of sea-to-air missiles, anti-aircraft batteries, other kinds of missiles. They also struck at the Syrian army air defense systems, striking at UAVs, fighter jets, helicopters, tanks, hangars, and more, as well as all the land-based ordnance like missile launchers and various other kinds of military paraphernalia. Now, the reason that Israel is doing this is that they don't want any of these military facilities, any kind of military hardware to fall into the hands of the rebels. We can't forget that the rebels in Syria are made up of all different kinds of groups, including ISIS. And we all know what ISIS would do if these kind of weapons fell into their hands. Naturally, Israel's position in the buffer zone, which we are very clear we have not moved from, and the airstrikes have drawn the criticism of countries like Turkey. Ironic, because Turkey is occupying land in northern Syria illegally and firing and slaughtering hundreds of thousands of Christian Kurds, as well as Qatar and the Syrian envoy to the United Nations. Israel is getting lauded by many Western pundits who are saying any normal country would do exactly the same. So last night, Prime Minister Netanyahu issued the following statement. He said, "We have no intention of interfering in Syria's internal affairs. However, we do intend to do what is necessary for our security. As such, I approved the Air Force bombing of strategic military capabilities left by the Syrian military so that they will not fall into the hands of the jihadists. This is similar to what the British Air Force did when it bombed the fleet of the Vichy regime, which was cooperating with the Nazis so that it would not fall into Nazi hands. We want to have relations with the new regime in Syria, but if this regime allows Iran to re-establish itself in Syria or allows the transfer of Iranian weapons or weapons of any kind to Hezbollah or attacks us, we will respond forcefully and we will exact a heavy price. What happened to the previous regime will also happen to this one." And this is a statement that was reiterated by Defense Minister Israel Katz, where he said anyone who wants to strike Israel will find themselves going the way of Assad. The World Central Kitchen has fired 62 of its aid workers after Israel found connections to various terror groups. I mean, this is astounding. You know, when you look at this and you hear the rhetoric from organizations like World Health Organization, like UNRWA, like all these so-called human rights NGOs accusing Israel of not sending humanitarian aid into Gaza, which is a fallacy, because every single one of us can actually monitor the aid that goes into Gaza. But, you know, when we talk about how entrenched and embedded these NGOs are, we can see yet another example, this time being World Food Kitchen. Speaking on condition of anonymity to World Central Kitchen, staffers said that these people were fired due to security reasons. Israel also found proof that at least one World Central Kitchen worker was involved in taking part in the 7th of October massacres. Sounds familiar? Well, at least they fired those workers. UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, you could take a lesson from World Central Kitchen. Now, if you recall, earlier in the year, an Israeli airstrike killed several World Central Kitchen workers, and there was a lot of dispute around that. Some of the officers who were severely disciplined by the IDF said that they had mistaken them for Hamas members. Let's see what happens further. We now go down under, and this is really, really hurting my heart. As I said earlier this week, I have a very special affinity with Australia, and the Simon Wiesenthal Centre, which is an organization that is focused on Holocaust education, issued a travel warning for Jews not to travel to Australia unless it is for very, very necessary business or reasons. And the reason is this is the soaring anti-Semitism crisis in Australia. Last week, Friday, the Adass Synagogue in Melbourne was set ablaze. There were still worshippers inside, and this morning, the citizens of the suburb of Woollahra in Sydney woke up to several cars that were set alight and anti-Israel graffiti sprayed on the walls of a house. There was also anti-Israel graffiti and anti-Semitic graffiti, including the words "Hitler was right," sprayed onto a construction site. Now, the Albanese government has come under severe criticism, including from Prime Minister Netanyahu, for their inability to take action against rising anti-Semitism. In fact, we go as far as to say that the hostile stance that the Albanese government has taken towards the Jewish state, especially by Foreign Minister Penny Wong, has created a climate that has almost endorsed this anti-Semitic action and rhetoric. Opposition MPs have cautioned Wong to tone down her rhetoric. And the former ambassador to Israel, David Sharma, who sits in the Liberal Party, said that she is using language that is a dog whistle and that is creating a climate of anti-Semitism. Now, in an exclusive for Sky News Australia, apparently a questionnaire has been handed to Israelis in the visa application, asking them if they had participated in war crimes or crimes against humanity. The questionnaire also asks if anybody witnessed a war crime. Now, of course, this questionnaire can be given out to any country, but in Israel, military service is mandatory among young people. Well, I have some words for the Minister of Interior. I have witnessed a war crime. I have been down to the killing fields of the south of Israel on numerous occasions where I have reported, and I've witnessed a war crime. I witnessed and smelt the death, the murder, the burning, the mayhem. I have held the evidence in my hand at IDF Military Intelligence Headquarters. I have smelt the decay and death and have stood in the burnt buildings. So if that's the war crimes that you are referring to, I have witnessed those war crimes. I have also looked into the eyes of children who want their kidnapped fathers back, and hugged the father of a hostage whose murdered and mutilated body was splayed for all the world to see on the 7th of October. And finally, because I really try and end these broadcasts with some good news, President Herzog has welcomed the President of Paraguay, President Peña, to Israel as he inaugurates that country's embassy in its move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The president said that our friendship between the two countries is deeply rooted in shared values, and it is a great pleasure to welcome President Peña, and we thank him for everything he has done to stand with Israel during this time and advocate for the release of the hostages. Prime Minister Netanyahu also thanked Peña, saying that he appreciates the rejection of the ludicrous ICC warrants of arrests issued against him and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. And Amir Ohana, the Speaker of the Knesset, said that the president had chosen principle over popularity. Thank you, gracias, President Peña and the people of Paraguay. So now for the audience question. It actually comes from Australia. It comes from Rochelle in Melbourne, who says, Rolene, do you think that Al-Jolani can be believed? Great question. We certainly have heard him saying the right things on CNN and Sky News, and the West has nothing to fear. But we in Israel are very, very skeptical of this. We heard the same language coming from Hamas, saying that they wanted no conflict with Israel, and the results were the 7th of October. So we have learned that brutal lesson. Also, we have to watch very carefully. I think it's too soon to tell. Can he reform from a member of Al-Qaeda and from swearing allegiance to ISIS? I think it won't come down to words. It will come down to actions, policies, and behavior. So that's it from me for today. I'm going to have tea, a hot toddy. Maybe I'll even skip the tea part of the hot toddy and go straight for a whiskey. But just a reminder that you can check out our website on www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottel's site. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. We're on Twitter at layoftheland5, on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, and on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks. Guys, God bless you. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.